Welcome to UGA Sports Live. My name is Radi Nabulsi. I'm joined by former Georgia Bulldogs head coach Jim Donnan, an inductee into the College Football Hall of Fame. He's here to answer your questions and to answer ours as well. So if you have questions for him, go ahead and put them into the chat. Whether you're watching this on X or Facebook or YouTube, wherever you're – hell, if you're watching us on LinkedIn, you can put the questions there. We won't get to them on LinkedIn, but you can put them there. And, of course, we also have Dayne Young joining us as well. Dayne's our executive producer, a teacher over at the University of Georgia. He's been covering the Bulldogs for a long time as well. Part of that time at UGAsports.com, so you can ask Dayne some questions too. This weekend is G-Day, April 18th. We finally get to see the Bulldogs go out there with a new cast of characters. You know, Kirby Smart has emphasized over and over again the way with the transfer portal works and the way that you can get so many mid-year enrollees. You're going to have a new team pretty much every year. He doesn't even like to compare this year's to last year's. He just says that the tenor from year to year is so different. There's not as much carryover as there used to be. With that in mind, we're going to pepper Coach Donnan with some questions about some of the newcomers or guys who are standing out, or just new faces in new spots and what he thinks about them. We'll do offense first because everybody likes to talk about, you know, high-scoring offenses and such. And then we'll take a quick break, and then we'll talk about the defense. So, Coach, you know the first thing everybody does when they go to G-Day is they pick apart the quarterbacks. The third, fourth, and fifth string quarterbacks are always better than the number one quarterback. That happens every G-Day. No one ever takes into account it's 2 versus 2s or 3 versus 3s. But we had the question come up the other day. Somebody asked on the board about Ryan Montgomery, the number 3 quarterback, and they wanted some comparisons. You know, who does he compare to? I know you hate doing comparisons. Kirby Smart hates doing comparisons. But give us some thoughts on the quarterbacks, because we haven't seen – we know what Gunnar Stockton could do. We know how big a fan you are of Gunnar Stockton, but talk to me a little bit about Ryan Puglisi and give me some thoughts on Ryan Montgomery. And maybe if you want to go with Beaver and Hillender, wherever you want to go. Millender, excuse me.
Well, you know, that's a pretty awesome task to break down all of them. But the guy that's got my attention this spring is Millender. He really has a skill level that you got to have at quarterback in today's market, because he can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you got your hand over the mic.
Well, I don't want to say it too loud, so but he definitely has a skill level to be able to move around in the pocket. But you know, because you can move, sometimes you have a tendency to take away from where the guy can throw, and he can see the field very good. He just doesn't know the system and hadn't had the reps that everybody else. But he's definitely a guy that can give our scout team a lot of help. And, you know, type of quarterbacks we're going to see in the league. But I can see why you would recruit that guy. And he's going to play for somebody, maybe not Georgia down the road, but really impressed with how Coach Bobo has brought him along. He just I had no idea. You know, a guy I coached it a long time ago was his quarterback trainer out in Arizona. And he said, look, this guy has a lot on the ball, and, you know, potential is out there. So he was right. But as far as the other two, you know, I think everybody wants Ryan Montgomery and Ryan Puglisi to make this big move very quickly, but it's hard to do, you know, when you just look back at the evolution of quarterbacks under Coach Smart here. So I think Ryan's Puglisi is really kind of pressed a little bit in the scrimmages, from what I understand, and not been quite as effective. But, you know, I like to throw the ball down the field, and you're going to get some interceptions. That's part of the deal. And the defense, I promise you, it's not fair, really, because you go to a check and then they check right away. They know what your checks are. They go right to the defenses, and you just don't – we're not programmed here at Georgia like maybe some places where if Steve Spurrier was the coach and they checked on defense, he'd call the whole damn scrimmage together and say, leave it alone, let my quarterback check off. But that's just the way, you know, we try to make it more game-like, and that's good. It's okay, but it's hard to develop as a quarterback. I think that's what hurt. You know, I think that's what hurt some guys over the years here, because the people that have been here a longer time could adjust to all those defensive looks and and made a move. Like Beck was around and he learned what to do, and he had an edge on the other guys from that standpoint. But I like Montgomery, very steady, knows what to do with the ball, and is very knowledgeable. But he's got a very accurate arm. He gets the ball in the right places, and has a good feel for the offense. So I think you got two guys that are both capable of jumping in there. Beaver looks to me like a guy that has a lot of upside with his size and his arm strength. And, of course, Colton Ginn is a guy that's got an arm that not many guys have, but I think he's got some kind of injury this spring and we hadn't seen. But we got a good room there of guys to build on as far as backing up Gunner. And, we know so much about what Gunner does and doesn't do, and he gets analyzed. I don't know if Dr. Phil is over here or what's going on, but really do break him down. But he's won the game in 2 conference championships in the SEC. Not a lot of guys can say that. So I think he's going to benefit, though. And whether you talk to somebody on the street or you talk to somebody at Chick-fil-A or going out to eat, that's the first thing. How's the offense going to be? And I just want to make sure we understand our defense is what's got to make the big move. We got to get our defense to take the ball over, get off the field, get some lost yardage plays. And if they'll play like they did from the Florida game on until the Mississippi game last year in the playoffs, we'll be okay because they really played outstanding defense from that point on. Early in the year, Tennessee, Ole Miss, even Florida, we didn't play that great. So, but I think that's going to be the real big deal for us. But part of the deal here now is to talk about each position. So if anything you want to ask specifically about the quarterbacks, I'll certainly entertain that too. So,
how much do you let Gunner play in the G-Day game?
I think the whole deal here is you're going to have probably a running clock in the second half, and you never know what's going to happen in the first as far as usually you put where the one team has the one offense and the 2 defense. So the one offense is against the one defense on the other team. So there'll probably be some crossover where a guy might be on one team at quarterback and he might I would say Gunner won't get quite as many reps as he did last year.
Okay. So yeah, you know what he can do. So that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's not so much what Gunner looking at Gunner as I think just look at these other guys. It's hard to get those other 2 if you're going to be equal to them. You can't let them be on the same team and take half the reps. Or if one of them's with Gunner, you're going to pull him and then put him in there with the first team. So I don't know how they'll do it, but they'll probably cross them over some. They'll probably play with both teams, and hopefully we'll get to see, the other 2. And I'm really excited about the fact that how these guys are going to react when there's a lot of people in the stands, because that's what it all boils down to. A lot of people can play pretty good when you're out there just going against the air and going against each other. But when the band's playing, that's when you got to do it.
Speaking of maybe limited action, we also know what Nate Frazier can do and Chauncey Bowens can do, but there's Dante Dowdle, there's Peanut, there's Bo Walker, a lot of running backs that Georgia would probably want to get some reps in this. And also, Kirby Smart mentioned they don't like to have a lot of big piles. They don't throw the ball as much they don't run the ball as much in scrimmages as they do throw it, mainly because you just don't want to get those pileups where somebody can get injured. So you want to avoid that. But we got some running backs we need to see. And I know you don't get too crazy about what goes on in the scrimmage like we do. We talked about this last week when we kind of went over some of the scrimmage notes. But I was told that Dwight Phillips, Peanut, had 2 long runs in that scrimmage. And I want to get your thoughts on Peanut, if you will.
Yeah, I think the thing and the reason that Kirby does that is we do the thud in practice. By that, I mean we go full speed but no tackling, so they can do a lot of running there. Inside running drill where it's like the linebackers and the tight ends and the O-line against each other without any perimeter defense, and you can hit it up in there with the inside zone and the power and all that. but not worry about getting tackled. You're just getting that initial everything blocking full speed, but you just don't put them on the ground. So we're getting an inordinate amount of thud in practice, so that helps and
Okay.
gets you a good idea about what these guys can do as far as moving the pile, so to speak. You know how you can run after the initial contact, but I think Peanut, when you look at the fact he's gained about 25 or 26 pounds since he first got here, and he's got the world-class speed, he gives you a guy out of the backfield that can catch the ball. And I think both Bowens and Frazier, from what I understand, have improved their ball skills because we had a tendency to lean on Cash Jones a lot last year because we knew what he could do. So don't know a lot about Dowdle. I mean, he's come in here and had to learn the system, and kind of like the kid from Illinois. I mean, it's going to take you a little while, but he certainly got the big size to help you on inside runs and short yardage. We saw Bo Walker do some things last year, and hopefully we'll get to see. Usually when you play the spring game, or somebody comes out there when the threes go out there, and then everybody goes crazy about some walk-on from Istanbul or someplace else coming out there running like crazy. But so it's
True.
That's the way things happen.
Roddy, who's your GD heroes over time? Like, I think of a Kyle Karimpolis had a really good second half of a G-Day one year. Like some of these names. Yeah.
No, there was that was it Landers, the wide receiver?
Matt Landers?
Matt Landers went big. Then Rumpf.
Jonathan Rumpf. Oh, yeah.
Jonathan
You're
Rumpf,
talking about the 6'5" receiver. Yeah.
Dude, they actually there's a meme on the dog vent where they call him the Rump Squatch, like the Sasquatch, because you would only see him once. You'd only see him on G-Day and then never again. But on G-Day, he was everywhere. So, hey, I'm my guy to this year, Coach, like you said, the guy that not everybody's thinking about, but who tears it up against number threes, Jay Lamar.
He can do it. He could do it. But, Johnny Brown was a guy here for us at Mr. G-Day, boy, 2 years in a row. He came out there and sparked it and did a good job. But he got to play some on special teams for us, but it's hard to get in there when you got Robert Walker and Robert Edwards and Alandis Gary and Patrick Pass and some of those guys. It's hard to get in there.
You got to feel bad for a guy that's sitting in a room with those three guys ahead of you going, NFLer, NFLer, NFLer. It's like, come on, man, when am I ever going to get a break? Poor guy. Blocking for those guys, we'll have a new-ish offensive line. We'll get to see Juan Gaston, Dontrell Glover. It'll be interesting to see who starts at center. I was told that Cortez Smith actually got snaps at the number one center this past scrimmage. He's rotating with about, Kirby told us, like 5 other guys. Then, of course, Ernest Green's back to left tackle, but big Jaw Jackson, 6'10" out there at the tackle spot. Coach, give us your thoughts on the offensive line, particularly maybe who you might peg seeing get the, I don't say the starting nod because I know they'll rotate the centers as well, but you got to replace that right tackle with the Green moving over.
Yeah, I think the big thing here is that there's a couple guys here as freshmen, and we talked about on the show back in early January. I brought up the fact that Helton was going to be the guy to watch for spring, and certainly he's done that. He's a guy that can play center and guard and maybe even tackle, and he's going to be right there, kind of like Glover was last year, except he's got the advantage of having spring practice, whereas Glover didn't. And then I think Ogboko 72 is another guy with the frame and the size to maybe make some, dent and maybe being the 8th or 9th guy. You got Daniel Calhoun. I've heard that Weenie has come in there and done a lot better as far as, he was called on very early last year, but he really does have some ability and he's got some explosiveness, and with the right work on technique and all, he's a big body too. So we got a lot of good bodies there that just got to surface. And you add the fact that, which is probably good for us, the fact that Drew Bobo is not practicing this spring, because you got to play those guys and they got to get in there and do stuff. So all of a sudden we start fall camp and we've had all these guys work at center and guard and move around and all, but then you put a potential all conference high level draft pick in there at center, then that really helps you, because now all of a sudden you got that hub of calling the defensive fronts and knowing the leadership capability that he's shown with our team, along with Raylan Wilson and all. I think that's going to be big for our football program.
I'm very confident in Dontrell Glover and Juan Gaston year 2 at the 2 guard spots. And again, Gaston to me looks like a giant tackle out there, but seeing him at guard is impressive. Of course, you mentioned Drew at center, and then Ernest Green, who we've seen play left tackle. He started there as a redshirt freshman, played the entire season. To me, the real question comes down to, can Judd Jackson lock down that spot? He's a big guy. He reminds me, and I've actually said on this show, I did not like the Judd Jackson experiment, whether it was at Alabama or Tennessee. I just thought he was not very good. He's gigantic, but couldn't move or couldn't
you had to play him, though. You had to play him.
I know. I'm just saying. But now he's getting number 1 snaps. And I think of, do you remember Dan Skipper at Arkansas, 6'10" guy?
Yeah. I think you're barking up.
He got much better. He went to the NFL.
I think what's going to happen is Helton's going to come in there at guard, and we're going to put Gaston out at tackle. If you play the best 5, but Jock could come along, and excuse me for interrupting, but I just don't see any way you can keep at this point either Helton or I just think Helton or Calhoun or some of those guys. It's just going to be hard for Jaw to get ahead of them. And maybe he will, but just because he's worked hard and everything like that. But go ahead. I'm not going to interrupt you again. But
I prefer to hear from you and not me. But I just remember seeing Dan Skipper the first time Georgia played against Arkansas, or maybe it was Arkansas versus Florida, and I thought that is the biggest tackle I've ever seen, and he's terrible. And then we saw what Sam Pittman did with him, and all of a sudden that guy I think he played 10 years in the NFL, a bunch of practice squads, and as a reserve role. But the fact that he was converted into a really good NFL guy, I'm thinking that's good for Job. But I love the idea of Juan Gaston out there at a tackle spot and Green on the other side. And when you talk about Michael Weaney, a lot of people, myself included, kind of crapped on him for his performances. But when I spoke to Stacy Searles down in New Orleans, he raved about Michael Weaney. He said that guy has so much potential. He's got a lot of it. So, and then Kirby Smart says, don't they have like 19 different offensive linemen out there? So I'm with you. You're picking and choosing from a pretty good batch.
Well, here's the point, though, about a guy like Skipper. When you're and nothing against Arkansas, but when you're a lesser program and you don't have a lot of 4- and 5-star linemen, then you're going to have to develop them. You're going to have to take your punches with them. We don't have that situation here where, we had it last year because of injuries, and it really bugged us against Tennessee and Alabama. And but I do feel like that what you've seen give Jaw a lot of credit. Guy never played much football, transferred from basketball over. He's got good quickness. He's learning the skills involved, and he's going to be a good lineman for us. But whether he's a starter, I mean, the whole philosophy for Kirby and our O-line coaches, regardless who it was, get the best 5 out there. To me, it's going to be hard to keep Zakai Helton off the first 5.
Coach, I know Kirby Smart head coaches will focus on players, but with Phil Rauscher being new as the lead offensive line coach, I know he was with the program last year, but as the guy, how much as a head coach are you watching your new assistant coaches in a spring game?
Good question.
Well, you watch them outwardly and inwardly. I think a lot of times you don't know how a guy's going to react when you're not watching him. So you got ways to watch them. All those rooms that they have over there got cameras in them. So how does the guy handle his meetings? I mean, it's not like you're trying to sneak around. The coaches know you could watch it, but it's good to, from my standpoint, the communication that you got to have as a coach on the college level, it's got to be give and take and can't always be the coach talking. And Dayne's a professor there, and he knows you want to you don't know what the students know because you're not asking them. You're just talk. So you got to get the guys on the board, get them to talk. But we got a really good support staff there. You got Stacy Searles, who's been the line coach. You've got, some really good people helping him. We've talked about over the past, all the people helping with the O-line. So, and we can do the 2 spot where you get more depth and everything. But I think in the case of Ross, you've got a guy that's coached in the pros. He knows what particularly the ins and outs of pass protection, because that's the lifeblood of the pro game. You got to run the ball, but you got to be able to. You got these big old guys off the edge rushing the passer, so you got to have techniques to help these guys. And sure, we know him here in Georgia, but he's had the benefit of doing that up there at that level, so that's got to help us too. So then you got Warren Erickson behind the scenes working these guys, and he took all those freshman guys, all we talked about on the show, all the months of January and February, and just met with them and taught them the system and the how to learn all the calls and everything like that. So once they started, the actual coaches got back from recruiting, they were able to just jump in there and have a pretty good idea about it. So I worry about a lot of things on our team. Offensive line doesn't worry me near as much as it did last year.
I can't be too worried about your tight ends. I think that's the best tight end group in America. If there's a better tight end group, I'd love to see it. Brandon Clark says he's really hoping to see Caden Prothro get some reps at G-Day. Can't wait to see that kid play. We appreciate Brandon tuning into the show. Coach, let's talk about the tight ends. We know what Lawson Lucky brings, but there's also Jaden Riddell, who we haven't seen that much, Colton Heinrich. Ethan Barbour is back and healthy. Elias Williams had what I was told is a 50-yard touchdown in the first scrimmage. And then, of course, Caden Prothro, set the career reception or career TD record for the state of Georgia with 66 touchdowns in his career. Pretty good group over there. Who are you looking forward to seeing on G-Day?
Yeah, from what I understand, they're using Prothro on the outside a little bit right now just to get him on the field. As kind of a slot receiver, intermediate passing game. He's a good target, and we'll probably see him Saturday, but he might be at tight end too. And, it is a really good room. There's no question about it, but somebody's got to take the bull by the horn. You can't just alternate that many guys, and you got to get somebody to step up, kind of like Delp did after Bowers and Washington left. But I do feel like Lucky is a very established guy, and his capabilities. Riddell, we've talked about his unbelievable speed for a guy that weighs that much. Heinrich has done a good job on the special teams, and he's solid. But the guy that's just physical, just unbelievable talent is Williams, and he's going to be, along with Barbour, 2 guys that just have elite skills as far as being able to play inside, outside, run with the ball after the catch, great wingspan and all. And so you can talk about, hey, it's a great room and all that, but the proof's in the pudding. We didn't get a lot of, except for the Texas game where we had 3 touchdowns. We didn't use our tight ends as much last year. Of course we had, Branch on the outside and all that. So it's just hard. It's only one ball, but I like the fact that all these guys can block too.
I'm just impressed that Todd Harley was able to keep all of them, because I know if I'm Texas, Tennessee, Florida, Ole Miss, Notre Dame, USC, Texas Tech, anybody that's got more than 2 nickels rubbed together, I'm coming after Elias Williams with an NIL package that would knock your socks off. I'm coming after Ethan Barbour. Hell, I'm coming after Jaden Riddell. I'm impressed that Georgia's kept them all, and looking forward to seeing what they can do this year. And again, I know that when we got to speak to Todd Hartley last year, he mentioned that his guys, are constantly trying to prove to Mike Bobo that they need to run 13 personnel instead of not just 12. They're constantly vying for it, and maybe this year we get to see a little more tight end heavy packages.
But the other thing is, let's give them credit. Kids want to stay at Georgia.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot to be said about being happy here, and the grass looks greener sometime, but there's a lot to be said about planning a winning program and being with your brothers and hanging out and being part of something as compared to leaving for the unknown. And it's been proven at certain positions more than others that you do what you're supposed to do here, you're going to get drafted. So that's what all these kids are looking at down the road.
The other thing to credit too, though, Roddy, is that Kirby Smart has kept Todd Hartley when we know that other schools have come to look at him for potential even head coaching jobs at certain levels. And then even in the event that that were to happen, John Lilly behind the scenes has been helpful to that room as well.
Good point. John's a very established coach and has pro backing. And, the biggest issue with Hartley right now is a couple pro teams have come after him, but I think – he's up there where he's making pretty good money now, which he should be, and he's got a pretty extensive buyout too. But he loves it here. His kids are happy here, and I think his next move is to be a head coach somewhere.
I could definitely see him going the Fran Brown route and just jumping right to it, and as a team would be smart to do so. All right, Coach, this question is on the last of the offensive guys before we take a break. This one comes from Brad Newsom, 5033. Who are the 3 or the 4 best receivers this year? So let me get your 3 or 4 best receivers, and then we'll get your take on who might be the new guys coming up.
Well, we got so many of them; it's hard to make that. But you told me you're going to ask me that, so I had them written down there. So I want to make sure I don't. And I've done some research here and talked to some people on the inside over there. So. I think the guy that stands out to me right now for sure is Taylor, just because he has such unique speed and quickness, and we haven't seen him live that much, but the coaches showed a lot of confidence in him, some of the throws they made to him last year. So I think Taylor and Humphreys are more established. But Canyon, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, is just a physical presence that looks a lot like Kobe Young and did a good job for Tech. I really like him. And then you got to go with Dandridge and Blackshear. Both have really good ability. And then all those other guys you can talk about, Roldan and the Wiley, all those other guys. But I would just say the top 4 for me right now are Canyon, Taylor, Humphreys, and Dandridge.
Dandridge definitely a new guy, a new face, true freshman. Glad you mentioned Thomas Blackshear.
Don't forget Scobie and Blackshear, but I think it's just a very good. I mean, I don't worry about the receivers either. Like people are saying, well, "Hey, we lost all these guys." I mean, I really don't. I don't worry about the receivers at all.
Who's your Dylan Bell guy in this group? The third and 6. The ball might be contested. Every time we do the watch along, you're like, "Hey, throw it to 86, get it to Bell."
I think I'm gonna go to Canyon. I mean, okay. He's got to do it, but based on watching him at Tech and all that, I like what he can do. And of course, we know Humphreys is money in the bank too. So either one of those guys.
I know you're saying receiver. I'd go Elias Williams for 3rd and 6.
Well, that's true. We can use him a lot of different ways. Yeah, he's got to be careful about pushing off. He doesn't need to push off anymore.
But it's so easy for him to push these little cornerbacks down.
He can do it as long as the ball's not in there. But right when he's getting ready to catch it, I mean,
yeah. I know. All right, we'll talk about the defense here in a second. Let me mention our friends over at Athens Ford real quick. Very important that I mentioned the fact that they actually have used. I told you not too long ago they had the commercial trucks, and they can take care of your commercial fleet. They can service it. They can sell it to you. They have a lot of new commercial vehicles, but they also have a lot of used commercial vehicles. You can get if you just hit on the folder there. They have 40 different used vehicles, used commercial vehicles. So think about that. You're like, well, maybe they have 1, 2, or 3. They've got 40, the best college football number of all time, I must say, or best football number of all time. Not going to tell you why. You can see they got crew cabs, 1,500 crew cabs. They got vans. They got Super Duties. Everything you want on the commercial vehicles from uplifted vans, service utility vans, service bodies, flatbeds, the whole 9 yards at our friends at Athens Ford. So if you need commercial vehicles and you're like, hey, I don't want to buy a new one, go get a used one. So they have it for you. And if you need new teeth, check out our friends at Atlanta Dental Implants. Dr. Ryan Holcomb will take good care of you. They do a fantastic job. They do the all-on-4 dental implants, which basically, you have 4 posts. They put all the teeth on it. They can do it in one sitting, which is unreal. The financing is, because it's not cheap, but they're not nearly as expensive as most places. They have the top ratings. If you go and look on their customer reviews, the reviews are through the roof. The testimonials are amazing, but you can actually finance, and they will tell you there aren't any hidden costs. They want you to know what it costs, and they know that you'll be happy to get it done, and you'll change the outcome of your life. I just went to the dentist, and they were telling me about what of my implants, what it can do to the other teeth, and what not having one there can do. You got to take care of your teeth like you take care of your feet. If either one of them goes down, it hurts your mobility, it hurts your overall health. It hurts your what you consume. You can't get a good diet if your teeth aren't good. So to take care of yourself, take care of your teeth, and reach out to Dr. Skylar Holcomb at Atlanta Dental Implants and let them know that the folks at UGASports sent you. He's also a huge Georgia fan, and I'll probably be at G-Day. So it won't do you any harm to go by Atlanta Dental Implants and just talk Georgia football with him, because the guy knows his stuff. He's also a member of the dog vent, which dog vents right now is definitely hopping, just a few days away from G-Day. But there's a lot of Braves talk, Masters talk, gardening talk, bourbon talk. There's always something going on at UGAsports.com.
Did you see that thread where I just ask people how they like their coffee in the morning? And people love chatting about their morning coffee. And then one of the people in the event, his son runs like a coffee roaster spot in North Carolina. And I think people were then buying like beans from that roastery from his son, which is super cool.
They're ripping Steve Smith, the senior's treatise on how Georgia used Zachariah Branch. There's a 7-page thread in there, and there's multiple threads on it,
Yeah, I mean, come on. But before we go any further, I want to tell something on myself just to bust me, just so you know. I heard you refer to G-Day, and my first spring here, I was talking to Claude Felton, and he said something about G-Day about three different times in different talks, and I'm trying to think, what in the world is he talking about? And I didn't know. I mean, seriously. So finally, the 4th time, I said, "Hey, Claude," I said, "What is G-Day?" He said, "It's a spring scrimmage, coach." I said, "Oh yeah." I mean, I'm glad I asked you that. I didn't know what G-Day was, man.
I mean, I get it. So well, I mean, there was, if they had dropped, they used to not call it picture day. They used to call it something else. And, that was a day you could go and get autographs and pictures with the players. And
boy, that was, let me tell you something. That was, I mean, if they've ever had anything that you would have a synonym for Ben-Hur, the movie, it was Ben-Hur for the coach. I'm talking about, because you had to stay. You're supposed to be a 2-hour window, but how are you going to tell somebody that's driven up here 3 hours from South Georgia and got 19 posters that you can't stay out there and go ahead and stay with them and answer? I mean, get your picture made and all that. But boy, that was a long, long day there. Now, I mean, but I enjoyed it. I mean, hey, you're the coach and had to take second fiddle to Uga there, but that was okay.
Yeah, they would cut it off. They're like, okay, here's this many tickets for you could get a picture with Uga or get a thing from the head coach. Probably after you got stuck out there for days. Matthew Carter says he's coming down from Cincinnati for G-Day with his daughter, her first time at the stadium. Yeah, I mean, guys coming all the way from Cincinnati to go to G-Day.
Good.
You got to, if they stick around afterwards. And I really think this would be a great idea now that you can let people sign whatever they want, let the players come out after G-Day and sign everything. So I'm with that.
Well, you can't do that now with NIL. They're pretty careful about their signatures. I tell you, another thing that's going to be an issue this weekend is that all those bike riders, don't they have the bike races this weekend?
This Twilight this weekend? Yeah.
Oh, man, what a perfect weekend if you're coming to Georgia or coming to Athens. You go as long as you can avoid the traffic. Go catch the G-Day game and then stroll downtown, have a few beers, and watch the Twilight.
So, Coach, you didn't know G-Day, and then your first one was at Clark Central, right, because of the Olympics?
Yeah, we didn't have the stadium because they tore the hedges down. We couldn't practice. We practiced over there, but they didn't want to have the scrimmage over there, so we had it over at Clark Central, and big crowd at Clark Central.
It's easier to park there. Dayne, take us through the defense, and let's see what Coach's thoughts are on the newcomers on the defensive side.
Yeah, I want to start from the outside in. So let's go defensive backs here and start with the safeties, and maybe we bundle in Star into this, Coach. And it all starts with KJ Bolden. But in terms of rotational guys or transfers, I know there's some injuries that will stop some of these players from playing in G-Day. But what catches your eye at safety for Georgia this season?
Well, you can't help but be excited about Barnes coming in here from Clemson. Just really fills the bill of what we need there. Can play star or safety. Just a built-in guy that's played a lot of snaps, and it's got everything you want. You got size, speed, toughness, and obviously wanted to come to Georgia because he left a good program. So he's going to be an impact guy, in my opinion, based on watching the tape of how he played at Clemson and watching him in high school. He's a good player then. Riddle is going to be a player too. We haven't got to watch him much because he had an injury in the bowl game, so he's gotten out there in the black jersey and been able to do some drills and all. But he certainly has the skill level to maybe be that safety opposite Bolden, along with Rashawn Dinkins, who we know played last year. So those three guys there kind of fight for those two positions. And then we picked up a corner from Cal, USC. I think 24. What's his name? Conley, and then Gilbert, 26, a guy that played last year. I think he's going to give us some depth. So we'll see how they roll there. So and then of course Green, the kid that had a couple interceptions a couple weeks ago from over in Atlanta area, is another guy. So you couple that with the guys we got back with Robinson and DeMello Jones, I think secondary is going to be pretty good. The other kid would be the guy from Oklahoma.
Just about to ask about
I think
Gentry Williams.
It's got a lot of playing time for Oklahoma in a good system, similar to what Clemson runs, because the same head coach there, but that was a D coordinator at Clemson. But I think it's a situation for him where he came in there with a little bit of a shoulder issue. So he, along with Riddle, have had to play in black jerseys this spring. But you got some experience there. You know what I mean? You got him and the kid from USC that have played. So it's not like they're – and then you got Branch back who did some pretty good things when he had a chance. He's a little bit undersized, but he does know the system. So it should help us. And so I think you add all those guys together, we'll be pretty good.
Chase
There's
White
no way you go 0 for 3 on transfer safeties again.
Yeah, that didn't work out real good.
Chase White on YouTube's asking, Coach, why would Georgia have not moved Janelle Aguero to strong safety last year? And I'll bundle that into a question now since Aguero transferred out. How do you determine who can make that, who's versatile enough to play multiple positions back there in the back end of the secondary?
Well, he could, but we needed a star. That was a position that was really hurting us all year. We needed somebody that can. You got to have like a third corner, like in the pros. When somebody puts a guy in the slot, it's usually not a tight end. It's a skilled receiver. It's a guy like McConkey or Branch or somebody. So if you play man coverage, you got to have a guy capable. That was something that Aguero was okay with. He was definitely more geared into being a safety, like the man that asked the question. But you had Ja'Cory Thomas back there that could play safety, so you had to look at the best of both worlds there. We had counted on the kid from UAB or the kid from Miami or whoever the other safety was, maybe coming in and doing that, but it didn't work out. So Aguero just ended up in a situation where we knew we had Rashad Dinkins coming back, and he beat him out there at the end of the year. That's all it is to it. I mean, he just came in there, played lights out for us in the Tech game and then against Alabama, and then played good against Ole Miss.
Is star more important than cornerback when it comes to the versatility and also, having to step up in the run game as well?
Well, different kind of responsibilities. I mean, you got to have a corner there that can play man coverage and play deep, and not quite as called on to tackle unless you're the corner into the boundary where you don't have as much field to cover, and you might probably have to tackle a little more. But I think it takes a little bit more toughness there as far as playing the run. That's for sure.
Roddy,
it feels like Kirby Smart's defenses are predicated on having a great star. Whenever he has a great star, that defense it feels different to me.
But if you have a lockdown corner, like I'm thinking Paul Oliver against Calvin Johnson situation, or even early in Kirby's tenure, there's a couple of these guys. But if you have someone that can shave off a third of the field, it really limits what the other team can do.
That's what I'm saying.
True, but I will say this: that's the most overused statement on a person that really. A lockdown corner is about as much as how many people have been to the moon.
Yeah.
I mean, true. It sounds good and all, but you're not going to lock these guys down in the pros anymore because you can't touch them after 5 yards. You better hope you have some guerrilla pass rushers. You got to get in there and make that quarterback throw off rhythm, because these guys are going to get open if you don't, because that's the way the rules are set for the pros, for the offense. They want to throw the ball. That's just the way it is. So, but and again, you made a good point. A lockdown corner would be great to have, and Ellis Robinson can lock you down, but he can get beat too, and he can get penalties, and he can, just like any of us. But he's definitely could play for anybody in the country. I mean, he's an excellent corner, and I'm sure glad we got him. We had my grandson's out in Oklahoma this week, up in Oklahoma City, doing some training, and he was at the sent me a picture of the you know who won the 2018 Jim Thorpe Award, or whatever you call it, for the best defensive back in the country? Don't look it on your computer there.
No, I'm thinking, is this a Georgia guy or just national?
I mean, this is Jeopardy, man. I can't help you.
No idea, Coach.
DeAndre Baker.
I was trying to get the name and I couldn't do it. That's who I was thinking of.
Really, that's the name from the past. But the third-year coach, Kirby,
yeah, bless, he was fast.
Kirby's got the best corner in the country there. So those things happen, but some bad things happened to him after that. But
hey,
I do feel like that. Just the overview for me, the whole defense is going to complement each other. Our linebacker group are very similar to the tight ends. I mean, we'll get into that next, I guess. But whatever.
Yeah, let's go to inside backer.
Hang on a second. Let me add this before you go to those guys. I will say, based on what we hear when we walk past the stadium, Khalil Barnes from Clemson is getting an earful from Kirby every day, which is a very good sign, because if you're getting yelled at by Kirby, that means he expects a lot of you. He calls him ACC, he calls him Clemson, he calls him all sorts of names, and just the fact that he's riding him, kind of like he did Richard LeCounte and, DeAndre Baker and everybody, Eric Stokes. When he rides a guy, that means he expects a lot from him. And by the sound of it, I expect big things from Khalil Barnes.
Well, that's who I started this one off with.
All right, inside backer, C.J. Allen's in the draft process. Raylan Wilson comes back. Who else catches your eye at the center of Georgia's defense, Coach?
Yeah, I mean, you got those two outstanding guys in Williams and also Chris Cole. But I think these young, and of course, the one that I can't ever remember is Grayson.
Crua?
Isaiah Gibson, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, Isaiah Gibson, and then you got Zayden Walker. Zayden Walker's the inside linebacker, and Grayson's outside. So I think, but we talked about 43 and 45 before. Terrence Pennick is a guy that really kind of got everybody's attention this spring, and then there's one other linebacker that I'm not sure about. Is it?
Pennick's the one that I had not heard much about till I think I heard you mention it on this show, Coach.
You mentioned him on the show, then everybody started talking about him.
Ain't it funny how that happens?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's one other one, Joe Lamar. He's is a running back, and then there's one other linebacker that's a freshman. Who is that?
I thought it was there's Eli Littlejohn. Nick Abrams from Abrams is the one.
Nick
from Baltimore.
He's Nick Abrams.
42, and he's
42 and 45. Nick Abrams is a lot like Channing Tindall. Really got some skill level like that. Can be good on special teams, and but I just I'll do a little bit better on these guys on their names and numbers after the summer. I'm just 81 years old. I'm not very good memory on them right now.
I can't remember who they are, Coach. I've got the roster pulled up in front of me. I had to go back because I was trying to remember Nick Abrams' name. And I kept wanting to say Jalen Walker because when he interviews, he's so put together and he sounds like Jalen Walker. And I'm like,
yeah,
what's his name? So I looked it up, Nick Abrams. But yeah, that's definitely a guy. And then I love the way that towards the end of the season last year, I mean, you got to see Williams get in there a lot, but towards the end, trying to think, who was the guy that you just mentioned him inside linebacker?
Grayson?
No, the guy who came on last few games. He's so fast. I think he was wearing 10 last year.
Well, he had Zayden Walker, inside linebacker.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah, Walker.
I mean, Isaiah Gibson's a freshman. So I think we got some guys can play that Jaguar package too. When you move Connolly out there and Williams, move them around. So, Cole, it's going to be good.
All right, outside backer coach Quintavious Johnson, Gabe Harris, Amaris Williams coming in from Auburn. Darren Akinabon is in the rotation there. Maybe even a freshman, Kamari Brooks, if he at some point finds his way. Who catches your eye outside backer?
We got Litton too in there, right?
Chase Litton.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Litton's, we've heard good things about him.
And you gotta hope that Gabe comes back off an injury. And I forgot to mention on the safeties, I think Kyron Jones, who played last year, really starting to play pretty well, but he's had some issues with his feet that just take a little while to heal what he had to have done to him. But Kyron Jones is the kind of guy that can play there, physical, can run, and he'll give you, like the Corey Thomas, a guy that really knows what to do. So you add that to the mix with those other guys. So I forgot to mention him, 31, Kyron Jones. But
I bet he has a Chris Smith type year.
Yeah, I like Litton. I think he's and certainly JJ maybe can come on too. I just never can figure out where they playing these guys that call them defensive ends or tackles or whatever and all.
Edge,
We used to have a nose guard and defensive tackle, and you said defensive end, but defensive end now might be a 5 technique or tackle. But we got some bodies in there though that can really stand up against the run, but everybody wants to rush the passer. And I think philosophy-wise, we just got to have a little bit more geared into people study us and what they did the last 2 years is throw a lot on first down. So we're going to have to run some second, third down defenses on first down.
So, and not to get ahead of you, Dane, if the outside linebackers or, teams are throwing it on first, and it just doesn't feel that Kirby Smart unleashes his guys to go after the quarterback on first down, which of course makes sense. Where do you get the inside pressure? Where does the vertical pressure come from? Who's going to give us that, Coach?
Well, I feel like Griffin. I mean, he's going to
move your hand, Coach.
They're going to have to double team Griffin. I mean, he's one of the best players in the country right there. I mean, might be the number one player on our team when you look at everything about him, potential, everything. And you look at two guys like him and Elias Williams coming in the same class last year. His physical, really unbelievable talent. And, I like McLeod. I said last week, I really think he's jumping out and is really taking on the coaching of Trey Scott, who is a premier defensive line coach, among the best that I've ever been around. And just a good teacher and great recruiter. And the kids really believe in what he tells them. You know what I mean? It's one thing to talk about it, but I've always felt like this one thing about every kid that I really like, if he's got this trait, are you coachable? You know what that means? When the coach tells it, there's no restraints, there's no negative thoughts in your mind, even if it's almost like, God, what is he thinking? If he's telling me that, this is what's going to make me better, and this is what I'm going to do, and there's no barrier there, you're going to really do it. And our kids really believe that what Trey tells them, that's going to transpose into making them better. And that and I'm sure it's like that with a lot of our coaches, but I don't know some of them like I do him. And he's just a really good man, and he does a good job of studying the game. And, a lot of pro guys talk to him, and he talks to pro guys too. And then a lot of his proteges are in the pros, and they come back and talk to him about what they're doing up there.
Some of these defensive linemen, Coach, I think that G-Day is a spot like down on the roster, a Nasir Johnson, someone like that we haven't seen much from. They could make an impact if he's going up against a Malachi Tolliver, who was playing against high-level SEC competition last year. If he looks good at G-Day, like he's one that may take a spring game even more seriously than others, right? Just people in that flow that need these reps to make impressions on coaches.
Yeah, that's a good point. And you got to remember, all of these guys are for Georgia. I mean, it's Georgia's team, but you have to separate them into two teams. So you got to have a punt team for each team, a punt return team for each team, a kickoff return, extra point block, all that logistical issues there. And then as the game progresses, you got, hey, let's hold this guy out. So now you got to put second team guy in on special teams and all that. So you got to keep up with all that stuff. But I do think that sometimes guys will maybe do something that they're not supposed to do, but they get away with it because they're playing against a lesser guy on the other side, So a guy might get an interception and jump a pass when he's supposed to be playing 3 deep or something. And everybody said, boy, that's really good coverage. But so you just don't know what's going to happen like that. But I wouldn't judge our team a whole lot by the G-Day game, the Georgia spring game. I would judge it by the fact that when you go there and look at the team athletically, even if you're just a non-seasoned veteran, you got to say, wow, good-looking group of athletes.
That's the paradox that happens in the dog vent, that if in the running clock second half, if a third team wide receiver makes an incredible play for a touchdown, it's like, oh, wow, look at the depth that Georgia has at wide receiver. However, the other side of that is, does Georgia have a problem with third team corner?
Yeah. You got
hey, I remember I was talking to Scott Lakatos, defensive backs coach, years ago. We're at a high school football game. Columbia was playing at one of the city campuses, and he was there to see a kid. I'm like, hey, you going to get him? He's like, no, we're never getting that kid. I'm like, Okay. But I asked him about one of his, it's either safety or cornerback that had multiple interceptions, like 4 or 5 the previous year. He goes, yeah, well, 2 of those is in the wrong spot. He just got lucky. Like, damn, okay. So sometimes it's better be lucky than good. And if you see that on G-Day, yeah, we'll write them up as top performers, but it should take into account that it was running clock, third team versus third team. So,
but I will say this: over the years, in my years of coaching, there's some guys that don't grade out that great as far as the actual what you expect them to do. But when you put a side column on job accomplished or getting the job done, they do it. They find a way to scratch and claw and get the assignment just by just that unbelievable tenacity or just ability to do it when you really count on it. So there's a lot to be said about a little bit of deviation from the norm there. You can't just be black and white. It's a plus or a minus, but effort overcomes a lot of things, and also how you play when the pressure's on. I mean, like I used to say, these guys and all these defensive back coaches and all, and I won't include Kirby because he's the head coach now. That's, hey, I want you to disguise this coverage now and show them this and show them that and line up in this and then JoJo to that, blah, blah, blah. But let me tell you something. When the band's playing, that guy's butt is so tight. He ain't thinking about disguising anything. He's thinking about covering his ass and playing like the technique. So, you can disguise it like crazy when you're up 24-0, but hey, I'm not worried about that. You just look at how they line up. That's how they're going to play normally.
All right. So speaking of pressure, we're at the end of the show, Coach. You got a joke for us?
No, the joke was on me on G-Day. That was that was pretty poor, not knowing what G-Day meant. And I told you about one of my real downers in life was the first day when somebody, and you were down there, Roddy, too, wanted me to go down and get my picture made at the stadium with that big with the dog.
The Granite Bulldog. Yep.
Granite Bulldog. And I'd never been to Sanford Stadium. All I'd heard about was the hedges, and couldn't wait to get down there. And got down there and had my red tie on and everything and ready to roll. And where in the hell are the hedges? They already took the hedges away from you, and he played one game. And then the first game we played, we should have taken away. We did such a poor job against Southern Miss, but they had taken them down for the Olympics. But I mean, I'm trying to think, good Lord. I mean, I'd already been shot down by Dooley telling me we were going to go on probation when he hadn't told me that until right when I got ready to get on contract there. But he was good about it. I mean, he said that he was, now that he had me, he'd tell me about it.
Hey, Dayne, it was me and Dave Toulis of the AJC. I think we were the only two that knew that, Coach was being hired. And they wanted to announce it with a photo. So I was working for the Athletic Association. I showed up and Dave did as well. We kind of worked it together. And we had Coach actually, that Granite Bulldog's up on a giant platform.
Yeah.
We had Coach climb up there and put his arm around it. And Dave's like, you can just reach over and kiss it, Coach. And he kind of fakes it. And I take the picture. And I'm told if I ever use that picture, I will be killed. And then we
showed some real athleticism getting up there, didn't it?
I'm like, this you can tell he's a former quarterback. He scrambled up there. I think there was a table that he climbed onto and then up the platform. And then we do all that stuff. We do all this picture. And then we go, what do we use? Him in the stands with a helmet on his knee. It's like, we put Coach through hell just to use the most generic picture of all time. So, but it's fun to meet him that day. So,
yeah, need to see that picture sometime.
That was an interesting day, that's for sure.
All right, folks, that's all the time we have for this week's show. Next week on Tuesday at noon, we will be talking about the results of G-Day. And we hope that all of you will get in your questions in and we'll get to them. We appreciate the folks that put their questions in earlier today. We got to those. And we will see you then. Take care.